Don't miss our top 10 tactics to make the Tau army work.
Spiking bits.
So the new Tau Codex is here for 8th edition 40k, and all the Xenos players are rejoicing. It is looking to be the year of the Xenos from what we've seen so far, of course. No word on the orcs yet, sorry, our players. Well, we've got Tau, and they look very spicy. Very spicy. I'm liking these guys so far. We talked about them a lot on the Long War. We've put out a ton of articles already on them, both for and against them. You know, the internet has already formed an opinion, but after breaking them down, we've got some stuff to show you that, or to talk about, that hasn't exactly been, out there in the aether. I suppose everything gets out to the aether at some point, but overall, the book is, your standard $40 codex from Games Workshop. It's going to come with a ton of content. I think there's only 38 data sheets in here, 25 stratagems. You got the 6 Sept, what do they call them? Special rules or whatever. Unique stratagems and unique systems. I think there's like 11 of those, give or take. There's probably only 3 we're talking about. Maybe we'll talk about 4 at some point in here. I'm going to kind of bounce through the book and give you a lot of ideas on how to play them, but also maybe things you need to know to play against them as well. So let's put it over on the paint desk here and start breaking it down. Okay, so here it is, the new Tau book. I also forgot to mention there is data cards, of course, $15. Get a pack of these tactical objectives, all the stratagems and stuff that you need. They don't have psychic powers or anything like that, so you don't have to worry about that. I haven't read through the fluff or anything in here, but apparently there are some folks upset about, the fact that it doesn't have some of the info, like I guess the missing 4th spear. It just kind of jumped ahead to the 5th spear, like the 4th spear, like what happened to them? Oh, they used their drives and maybe they got sucked into the warp, maybe they didn't. And then the stuff in here about the 5th spear, all the things we've seen as they kind of punch through and start making some gains in human territories and stuff. And here's the current map, I guess, for them, and then all the fighting and stuff from the Kauyon and Mont'ka books 2 years ago. They were right around the premiere of what was it, Age of Sigmar back in 2015, I want to say it was. So there's all that. Those books came out October and November of 2015. So lots and lots of stuff out there still to talk about. And then there's been rumors recently about perhaps an allies book for these guys, but who knows at that point. We're living in the now right now. What time is it? It's now time. So the Tau Empire, just the real quick stuff before we jump into our tips and tactics, of course, is just the normal stuff. Like everything has a sept, even the forge rolled stuff in your Imperial armors are going to have a sept, so that all crosses over just fine. I'm going to put this book in my lap because we're going to need it here and again in a minute. They all have the greater good ability, so folks within 6 inches can lend their Overwatch fire, which is pretty good. Master of War ability, they can call once per game. You can call a Kauyon or a Mont'ka. Some commanders can do it twice, like Farsight and Shadowsun can do one of each, respectively. Kauyon's by far the best one, and this is probably one of the points we need to talk about, is that the book relies more on the stratagems and Markerlights to get stuff done. However, Kauyon is still good, because if you don't want to be dynamic with your forces and kind of moving things around and shifting things here and there, you can kind of huddle up like a Gilliman gun line and pop that reroll failed to hit rolls for one particular shooting phase if everybody within 6 inches of the commander. And a commander is probably another model that we're going to talk about and things you need to know here to play your army. So Commander Shadowsun, Commander Farsight, they're great. I can't remember if they went down. I don't think they went down in points right off the bat. I have a huge list here that we published on the site with a bunch of those. But the one thing we do need to talk about, if you're not tracking the Commander in Cold Star Battlesuit, this guy is an absolute monster. Most lists have it. This is probably why they were restricted, which you're about to see when we get to the back, to 1 commander per detachment. This whole thing, like Kenny said on the podcast, he's basically Iron Man. He flies up, he does some stuff. There is a way for him to jump behind terrain, actually 2 different ways using stratagems. But this guy is a superhero. If you're reading the fluff in the Kauyon or the Mont'ka book, I forget which, the new Cold Star battlesuits fly into space that actually cut a hole and put a bomb into one of the Imperial warships and then return back to Earth and detonate that. That's what these suits can do, and that's represented by their 40-inch movement in one turn. And if you're still taking assault weapons, you can still fire them, which is super crazy. They can also deep strike into play using the Manta Strike. So that's something to definitely be tracking right there. But notice this is kind of what we're getting into on the whole overlapping, using your Markerlights, using your Stratagems, the things you need to know. They don't operate like a normal kind of Imperial or Chaos list where everybody has bubbles of things and doing things. You're going to have to use your Markerlights and your Stratagems wisely. Fortunately, and another point we're going to talk about, cheap battalions. You should have a lot of command points at that point, but we'll see as we get to that that particular point right there. So there's your commander. Probably going to want to start here when you're making your army. As far as other lists and units and things, there isn't a whole lot to talk about. Maybe a couple of points with point reductions, like the strike teams went down in points, but we're not really going to super get into that. You can check the site. I'm sure we'll put the overall points list reduction article link in here for you guys to check out. I kind of divided the book up by different sections so I could flip the things. One of the units we do need to talk about, that you need to be aware of, along with the commander, is the Riptide. Now, a lot of early chatter about this guy, obviously. He's 250 points now with a heavy burst cannon and his two smart missile systems. Went down in points. The heavy burst cannon went down 20 points. The Riptide itself went down 24 points. So you're looking at 185 plus your heavy burst cannon plus your two smart missiles, and then you can add in weapon systems, whatever. It's great. The Nova ability is great, and of course there is a stratagem. Where is it? Branch Nova charge that you can play for one command point, where you get to do for one mortal wound, you get to do two of these abilities, so you're gonna get to double your shots with a heavy burst cannon and boost off 2d6 in your charge phase. Get behind that wall and get set up behind the screen, because these guys have fly, and you're good to go there. So something to think about when you make most of your list. You're probably gonna say, hey, I want a Riptide. Hey, I want a commander, which seems to be the way, or maybe 3 Riptides. Maybe you're going to take a Vanguard. I don't know, but it doesn't seem too shabby at all. And then we'll flip to the back of the book and start talking about some other things. Let's talk about support systems. This is something you need to be aware of, is the Markerlights system. Markerlights, they switched the table actually. 3 and 4 got switched. So 4, do not suffer the penalty for removing and firing heavy weapons, used to be at the 3 spot in the index, and the 3 to drop cover bonus used to be 4. So apparently they put more emphasis on that, because it seems a lot easy to get these ones. You could get up to 5 right off the bat, and we're going to show you a couple of ways with stratagems to do that. So be tracking the marker light blankets and things, your kind of redundant abilities that we're going to kind of come back to with the stratagems a little bit, and calling your Kauyon when you need to get that overlapping fire. There is a stratagem that allows you a commander to fire to reroll hits with a broadside team, or excuse me, a battlesuit team within 6 inches. And that's probably another point that you need to be aware of that's on our list, is the difference between the Battlesuit Keywords, which is very important here. There's also an ability or a stratagem to double fire infantry, and as probably you've read by now if you're a fan of the Tau, battlesuits, there's no battlesuit except for the stealth suit that is considered infantry. So double firing, if you're going for a battlesuit kind of build, probably is going to be best left for your fire warriors and such, your real actual infantry. Shadow Sun actually counts as infantry too, believe it or not. I don't think Farsight does. So let's double check. I did not check that one. He is not infantry, no. So something you need to be aware of is the keywords. So battlesuit, broadside battlesuit, for those guys, like I said, the stealth suits, they are fast attack. Your Riptides are considered also a battlesuit, but more specifically a Riptide battlesuit. The Storm Surge, strangely enough, is neither. It is a Storm Surge, I believe. I can find. Oh, Storm Surge is a Little War, so it would be the very last thing, probably. Let's see. after the fortifications. So your Storm Surge is no sort of battle suit whatsoever. It's just a Storm Surge. Another thing too to be aware of in your keyword shuffle is this Branched Nova Charge is specifically keyed to the Riptide Battlesuit, whereas in the Imperial Armor, in like for the Ravarna, which you're going to probably see a lot of folks fielding, or the Yavera, they have a specific Nova Reactor class to them. So you can't use that stratagem to pop these off. Even these are super good. And we're going to talk about a little combo with the Yavara here in a minute. Probably one of the better units. Maybe the Hazard teams are good in here as well. They have Manta Strike, and they have these guns that are pretty decent, except for, I would probably say the Fusion Cascade's probably a little bit better. The Phased Ion gun is good, but with the 2d3 shots, I'm not sure how effective it is, but the Hazards definitely stand out to me in a lot of ways. But the Yavera definitely has already been a terror on the tabletop, and there's probably a way to make it even more deadly that I'll show you here in a second. Is probably one of our other points that you need to know. Let's see, what else do we have here? Let's get to the back and just kind of talk about some more general stuff that you should be aware of. Not necessarily one of the points that we wanted to make. They had the same thing where if you want to use the Sept tenants, which are right here, we've already seen these and talked about these enough. The general one is that you can Overwatch on a 5 or 6, and then there's more specific ones. The Borkin stands out for some of the combos that we're going to talk about here in a minute. Add 6 inches to the maximum range of any rapid fire heavy weapon that they may carry. The Farside Enclaves are pretty good. Reroll 1s for models with this tenant, but with shooting attacks that are against 6 inches, so they're good at, engaging and then falling back in their turn if they survive and giving that devastating counterattack. There's probably some use for Farside Enclaves. I could see a lot of people taking dual detachments with Farsight because of the fusion blades, which is probably one of the things we're going to cover in our Relic Need to Know section here. But the Sept tenants, you have to have a battle-forged army over here. Now, taking Kroot and or Vespids don't mess you up because they are all Tau Empire, and you only have to be Tau Empire to get your Sept tenants. So it isn't specifically keyed, like, say for instance, hey, everybody in here has to be Imperial Fist, or hey, everybody has to be Alpha Legion. It's keyed in here to Tau Empire. Okay, it's not keyed to the Sept. It just says all Sept units in a Tau Empire detachment gain a Sept tenant. So as long as your detachment is Tau Empire, which all of these auxiliaries are included in that, then you're legal. It's not like Chaos, where if you put demons in there, they're no longer Death Guard, or they're no longer Thousand Suns kind of weirdness. This actually works, and they explain it right here that not only does it work, but your Tau Empire, like your Kroot and your Vespids, don't get that Sept tenant because they don't have the Sept keyword. Okay, so just can't kind of keep that in mind. This works a little differently. Everything with Tau works a little differently than more of the traditional kind of brute force Imperium stuff, because us silly Imperium players. Let's check our list here. Top 10 and kind of see where we're at on things. We got to cover the points changes. That's fine. Cheap battalions. We'll get to that in a second. Let's break down. And we already did this on the podcast, but let's break down the stratagems. I think some of the better ones here for sure. We talked about the orbital marker disruption uplink, and this kind of goes with the things we were talking about just a minute ago with the Markerlights. This is going to allow you to just straight look at some guy and be like, hey, not only does that enemy unit get a Markerlight, but everybody within 6 inches gains a Markerlight too. So even if you're not kind of keyed to certain things, as long as you're alive with command points, which you should be because detachments are so cheap, we're going to talk about that here in a second, you have the ability to gain Markerlights to benefit your whole army. And remember, reroll 1s to hit is just 1 Markerlight. And coming up with the other one is... that's the 2. Well, there's another one that just allows you to pop off a Markerlight on something. Let's see if I can find that one. Nope, not that. Well, there's a stratagem here, and I forget the name of it. Maybe it's, oh, here it is, uplinked Markerlight. So use the stratagem after an enemy unit has been hit by a Markerlight fired by a model from your army. Place D3+1 Markerlights next to it. So on an average 3, and then boom, you can just, if you're Sakia Sept, now you can just say, so that's 4, plus everybody around him just took 1. So you're already starting to like push out Markerlights. And in the cheap battalions that we're going to talk about, you can take 3 elite choices if you're not going Riptides in that particular detachment that all hit on 3s and give out Markerlights as well. So the ability to just pop in and out Markerlights willy-nilly is huge. And use that with your Kauyon. Use that, you know, with other abilities to give you like your Battlesuit commanders to give you rerolls and such, depending on where they are best suited at that particular time. I think is pretty key. Okay, let's just talk about the Sept, the 3 Sept ones that I think are pretty good. Dahlia Sept is pretty decent. Start a shooting phase, pick a Sept unit from your army, may shoot, and then immediately move up to 6 inches as if it were the movement phase. They cannot advance as part of this move. This is awesome because you can kind of jump behind things if you did not advance. So it doesn't necessarily work with a Battlesuit, but it is worth a Battlesuit commander that advances up 40 inches and then tries to hide behind something. We'll talk about something for that here in a second. The Borkin Sept, and this is an important thing to note, and this is going to go back with what we were just talking about, the Yaverna, is they give you that extra, the Sept itself gives you an extra 6 inches of range on your guns. Now this allows you to reroll one of your random die rolls for number of weapon shots. And you're probably like, hey, I can just spend a command point and reroll, you know, a die anyways. Well, what this allows you to do is spend 2 command points, this and the reroll, to reroll 2d6 if things go completely awry, of course, or still have that reroll for maybe a damage or maybe, you know, something like that down the road still. So this is kind of crucial, and here's why. When you're using, like, one of the glaring examples is if you take your Ravarna Battlesuit, which isn't that expensive. It's like 400 some points. It is going to be more than a Riptide. But looky here. You've got this Plasma Flamer that is 8 inches range because it's, you know, a flamer basically. But if you take in Borkan, you got 14 inches range, so it gives you a lot more survivability to hide behind screens and such. If you really get into trouble, you can use your reactor, you can bust out, teleport up into reserve, come back down, which theoretically that should never happen. Or you could go up to, because you got 1 wound left, you want to come down and claim an objective or something like that. That would be very useful. But when you do, you would have the ability to deep strike in more than 9 inches away and still use your weapon. It's situational, but it's definitely worth, you know, mentioning that scenario. On the general, though, you're going to be having the ability to move 18 inches right here and fire another 14 inches, which is pretty good. And once you start figuring out how deadly this weaponry is here, and now with this, you can reroll 1 of these, or possibly 2 of these, or reroll 1 using the stratagem and keep your reroll for, you know, I don't know, a damage roll or something like that down the road, or a different to hit wound. So keep that in mind here. Borkin seems like the obvious choice if you're going to take Yavara, and there's obviously a stratagem for that as well. The double shots for infantry, it's key to Yavara, or excuse me, Vorla Sept infantry right here. And remember, the Vorla treats all rapid fire weapons as assault weapons. So rapid fire 1 becomes assault 1, and you can advance. And there's also no penalty to advancing and firing assault weapons for these guys as well. So pretty crucial right there. 3 great stratagems that are keyed to Septs, and those are some good ones to talk about. Now the generic, oh, and something else to talk about too, and I don't think but just to be aware of it, there's a stratagem that allows you to use the top here. So say you've taken a bunch of shots on your Yavera and you're like down to here and you're hitting on 5s, and just for 1 turn you want to use the stimulant injector for 1 command point. Well, what that's going to do is get you back up to here, allow you to have that crucial movement, and allow you to hit on a pretty decent, you know, 4 up right there. They are a Battlesuit, so they could possibly get the rerolls if you target them with your stratagem. from your commander to reroll a Sept Battlesuit from your army within 6. You can reroll failed wound rolls for this one. Command and control node, as long as that commander doesn't shoot. Here's one that does not allow the enemy to claim cover, the multi-spectrum sensor suite. This one's pretty good. The neural web system jammer. You just pick an enemy unit, and now they are -1 to hit whatever their target is, as long as it's 18 inches away. A Battlesuit commander. Wall of Mirrors is going to allow your stealth suits, which remember are infantry, so those would be pretty good with this hot-blooded stratagem for Vorlar Sept, to go back up and come back down if they're within first 6 inches of a ghost keel, and then reappear 12 inches away from a ghost keel, or within 12 inches and 9 inches from an enemy. So it's going to allow you to get out of trouble. And the stimulant injector we just talked about is great for any battle suit over 10 wounds or more. It's going to allow you to use that top category there for your movement and your shooting. Focused fire. This was an early discovery or reveal by Games Workshop. It's just ridiculous, the power of this. After a tile set unit from your army inflicts an unsaved wound on an enemy unit in the shooting phase, you can add 1 to wound rolls for other tile set units from your army that target the same enemy unit this phase. For 3 command points, it might seem expensive at first, but overall, it's crucial for dropping those very big things. And you should, again, have a lot of command points. So on the first turn, combo your Kauyons, drop your focus fire, do a lot of damage early. Once you get that crucial hit through, you can drop your focus fire and start going to town on that. Another 3 command point one that we need to talk about, orbital ion beam. And at first we kind of poo-pooed this. We're just like, I don't know, it seems expensive, 3. But the key to this one is, of course, it is locked to a Tile Empire commander that did not move or use their Manta Strike, so they have to be on the table and they have to have not moved. You pick 2 points on the battlefield 2d6 apart. So the key to this is you figure out what your 2d6 is, apply rerolls as necessary. Say you get 12 inches, and now you get to pick those 2 points on the battlefield. It's a great opening move. It's perhaps a great finishing move, but it allows you to kind of manipulate and set the tempo there with this. And I mean, again, there could be some very devastating first turns with Tau, utilizing a lot of these things in conjunction with a Kauyon, or you Mont'ka up to get in position, whichever. A couple other things, and we'll kind of move down. We talked about the Branch Nova charge. That's going to allow you to get those double shots with your boost out or your invulnerable, whichever, with your Riptide. Failsafe detonator at first kind of poo-pooed it as well, but then once we started looking at it, it automatically detonates. And on a 4-up, roll a dice for each unit, friend or foe within 3 of that model. On a 4-up, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So you detonate or you die, you play this, and on a 4-up, everything around it is going to take a mortal wound. Again, a great finisher for 1 command point, or just to get that last piece in there. EMP grenade, seems like everybody has something similar to this. This one is good because it is doing D3 wounds. You just have to make a single hit roll. It's a great finisher or a great opener to kind of set the tempo, or boom, took an unsaved wound, and now you can focus fire. So as long as you're within 8 to throw that photon grenade, I think it might be pretty clutch right there. So that's our stratagems that you need to know. So, relics, or signature system as you want to call it. We actually didn't talk about warlord traits. We're just going to skip those for now. I'm sure we've seen all those. But there's some good stuff to talk about signature systems, and then I really want to touch on cheap battalions. So let's get to that. So signature system, there's a lot of them. There's 11. I only think there's a couple worth talking about. First one, and I kind of got over, I'm still 50-50 on this, but the Puretide Engram Neurochip. Once per battle, you get to reroll a single hit, wound roll, or damage roll made for the Baer friendly Sept unit within 6. So it's multi-versatile. It's a free reroll that would normally cost you 1 command point, by the way, and allows you to roll a d6 each time you or your opponent uses stratagem, and on a 6 you gain a command point back. Now I can see where a lot of people are going to have double battalions, and thus a lot of command points right off the bat. For Tau, that's probably 3 command points back on average, plus whatever your opponent has. Say they have 12, say they have 6. We'll just go with a middle road number of you get 4 back. That's a pretty huge number, even when some of your stratagems are costing 3 command points, so keep that in mind. The Supernova launcher seems, the stats are okay, but the fact that you have to replace one of your fusion blasters with the airbursting fragmentation projector is kind of iffy at that point. But if you really have a hard-on for this thing, it's not bad to take just for flavor. You have the old model or whatever, it's not a bad thing to take at all. Vector maneuvering thrusters might be key here. It's generic to any Sept Battlesuit, and the model may immediately move up to 6 after attacking in the shooting phase. So you boost up with your Cold Star, you blast something, then you jump behind terrain and set up for the next turn with that. Free movement is always money all day, every day right there for sure. And the fusion blasters, or the fusion blades, are pretty clutch. It's just giving you an extra bonus. Again, would be great on that Cold Star, because now you can take, you know, where you would take, say, 4 fusion blasters. Actually, I'm not sure you can do that on a Cold Star. I think you can only take 2 weapon systems. Let's double check that. Either way, you can do it on a commander, because I believe you can take 4. May take a burst cannon missile pod with 2. May take 2 additional. May take 2 additional. Oh, 2? No, you can't take 4. Okay, cool. So you could take 4 fusion blasters, try to go after that high priority target. But now, this gives you kind of a flexibility here. You can boost up, still shoot, because you still have 2 fusion blasters. The blades here for that are replaced are assault 2. So technically you still have your 4 shots. Say you don't kill it, you can jump behind something next turn, jump back out, blast it, not advance, going to 40 inches, and then assault it melee style with, you know, additional attacks, or finish it off. You know, 2 shots this way, 2 shots at another high priority target, charge in on the second high priority target. It gives you a lot of flexibility here, in my opinion. So those are kind of our picks for the signature systems. Now, we're running a little long, and thanks for bearing with us here. I want to talk about cheap battalions, and here was one that Joe J sent us in, just kind of an idea. Now this is pointed up on the old point values, not corrected here in the book. However, I kind of noticed a few things where you could do some savings. The strike teams are now 7 points each instead of 8, so that's going to get you at 35 points for a Fire Warrior squad, a 5-man Fire Warrior squad. So overall, if, say, you take an example, and this probably isn't going to be for everybody, but you just take 3 HQs of Cadre Fire Blades with Markerlights at 42 points each, because you need those 3 HQs. Ignore the commander and long strike. You could go with Crew Carnivores if you have them, the 60 points, but realistically, you could just go straight Fire Warriors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 30 Fire Warriors is only 3 boxes, well, approximately. So money-wise, a little bit of savings there, because you're splitting them up into little squads of 5. The Elite, the Farsight Marksman, is awesome choice, and I actually think this is now has gone down in points. It's 24 points total, I believe. It's 21 plus 3 now, I think, on that. Fast attack to fill it up with the Crew Hounds. 4 Crew Hounds is still 16 points. That's incredible. Sniper drones for heavy is only 54 points. This right here, this particular configuration, say you lose another 15, which would be 30. That's going to get you down to about 650-ish points, or 665, give or take. With a few other little tweaks, I'm sure there's some point savings here. You could easily fit in 2 of these and then start, you know, putting in suits and different things. Remember, your broadside's only 250, or excuse me, your Riptides are only 250. So at 1200, you could easily take 2 of these and still be under 1850. You would still need a commander, so you know you're looking at probably at 160. But just to give you some ideas on how easy it is to get a butt ton of command points, or just take 1 brigade, go a Vanguard, get your 3 Riptides, you know, at 695, get your 3 Riptides, get your commander. I mean, that's 750, 13, 15. You still have 300 some points to put other stuff in your list, and now you're rocking a battalion plus 3 plus a brigade in command points. Like, you just have command points for days. You can get up around 15, 16 command points. So there's a lot of play here that seems really good. And this particular list, I think, was overall 1850 with a Vanguard in here and some other stuff too. We actually didn't touch on Savior Protocols. Let's talk about that. When I talked about, I didn't talk about drones. Savior Protocols has changed. It's on page 123. Nope, I lied. Anyways, Savior, I don't know where the drones are. Savior Protocols has changed to very similar to how the Death Shroud worked, where if something shoots on a 2-up, you can choose to take it on the drones. I actually don't know where the drones are. And that's not good. I guess it's probably just in the any entry here with a drone. Let's see if it's under Riptide. Yeah, here we go. So on a 2-up, you can allocate that wound to the drone unit instead of the target. If you do, the drone unit suffers a mortal wound instead of the normal damage. So they tweaked it a little bit, but it's still going to save you those initial shots. However, remember, drones are separate units, so a crafty player can split, do a wide spectrum shotgun kind of blast with all their shots, clip off all the drones first, then be able to start targeting the hard characters and things that are out there. If that's all that's in the front is characters and maybe battle suits or something like that, so that's something to remember. Also remember the beta rules, the beta FAQ rules for Warhammer 40k say characters cannot, you remember, you can't target a character unless it's the closest model, but if a character is in front of another character, the character cannot, it doesn't change priority. You can choose which character you're shooting at that point. So that's a very important distinction to remember. That's for beta play. It's happening at Adepticon. It might roll it out into general play, but a lot of tournaments are already making that a thing. So if your opponent has a lot of battle suits that are characters kind of out in the fore, a good way to combat that is to clip off the drones, get them out of the way, and then start picking off the characters with the fusion first, because they're going to try to hide them and stagger them, rather, so that they can get in the next turn on you if you had a really good screen and stuff. So just some points, just some food for thoughts right there too, that I didn't even include on the list that I just thought about as well. So that's about it. We definitely went over top 10 things you need to know to make a Tau army using the new edition book here, but we'll just keep it at 10 and call it fair, because I didn't even go over the points changes actually. So there was that. I will link to the comprehensive Tau changes post on Spiky Bits, so you guys can check that out right below in the description as well. So make sure you click on that and go over all that stuff. It has a lot of points that we talked about, but this list of our top 10 things you need to know will also be in the description as well. So if you like these kind of breakdowns, make sure to work out those hobby muscles, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the little bell notification icon to be the very first to like and comment on all our videos.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. Thelongwar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos,